Hi, I'm Dr. Ginevra, and welcome to day 12 in 30 days of my fibro life. Today I had therapy, and that always gets me thinking about trauma and how we heal from trauma. And there's lots of different ways to do that. Certainly EMDR, which is a therapy I'll talk about in a separate video, is kind of a well-established, kind of more conventional medicine approach to processing trauma. But there's also this huge area of kind of more kind of woo-woo areas of healing trauma, and in particular, I'm kind of meaning more energy type healing for trauma. And I certainly have experienced pretty significant and profound emotional healing from energy work. And one of the ways that I've experienced that is actually during myofascial release. So for those of you that are not familiar with it, myofascial release is a manual therapy really focusing on the fascia in our body, and it's kind of prolonged assisted stretching, and the therapist kind of helps you get in different positions and helps you to kind of really open up and soften any tight or painful areas of the fascia. And so from a mechanical perspective, that totally makes sense. But there's also this aspect of kind of energy work with it. And that's a lot harder to explain from a scientific perspective. I don't even try to explain it anymore. I can just say that, my own experience is really what I can share. And what I found is that sometimes when I'm getting myofascial release, I'll get in a specific position, or the therapist will be working on a painful area, and suddenly I might have sort of almost like a flashback or like a memory of maybe a traumatic experience, and sometimes there's an emotion that comes up with that, and as the therapist kind of guides you through that, you can experience this sort of releasing of that emotion. And so when I talk about myofascial release, that's emotional release is another huge component of it, although really I'm more often talking about the physical aspect. And it's hard to kind of understand, but there's some concept that maybe the energy of a trauma, whether it's illness, injury, car accident, combat, something where our body was really shocked, it was really scary, and at that moment maybe we didn't have the ability to process that emotion, and so we sort of like stick it somewhere, and energetically it's like sticking it in the closet and deal with it later. And unfortunately, the more you kind of stick in the closet, the harder it is to actually access it. And so myofascial release seems to be one way that can help us kind of access some of that old stuck energy in a way that we can kind of experience it in a safe way, in a safe kind of contained environment, guided with a therapist, and kind of re-experience it and then let it go. Like, we don't have to hold on to it. And for me, even I just got chills just saying that. Like, when you can kind of get that physical release of whatever the tension is in the tissue, but then also that emotional release of sort of the trauma or that scary experience or that negative emotion or something we maybe didn't want to feel at the time or we couldn't feel at the time, when you can get that combination of both the physical and the emotional kind of energetic release, that's where really profound healing can happen. And one saying that myofascial release therapists say a lot, and I think it's really true, is the issue is in the tissue. And so, that can look different for different folks, but I would say if you're kind of open to it, the idea of maybe looking towards things like myofascial release or other forms of energy healing as a way to kind of maybe heal some of the emotions and the hard parts of trauma. And the more we can kind of release, I think the less baggage, so to speak, that we're carrying. It's like the less is weighing us down, both physically and emotionally. So I go more into some of my experiences with energy healing in my book, The Fibro Manual, and also go into great detail about myofascial release. But just wanted to share that little bit of my woo-woo self and say that maybe there's something more than just the mechanical aspect to healing with myofascial release. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Stay fierce.